Wonderful episode of the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast, where we share transformational stories of faith, resilience, healing, creativity, leadership, and legacy. I'm your host, international award winning speaker, author, certified coach, and whatever all the stuff. My name is Michelle, Ebalaroza Kawano. And today I am so glad that we have Ashok Alexander. And I pray that I said your name correctly. Ashok is a founder of Reclaim Self. Based in Sydney, Australia, he works with leaders and professionals to bridge a gap between performance and personal alignment, combining coaching, psychology, mindfulness, personal alignment, oh, sorry, self inquiry, breath work, and holistic well being practices to help people challenge limiting patterns, make clearer decisions, and lead with greater authenticity. That is something that I believe we have been missing a lot of is that authenticity. He is a speaker, yoga, and how do you say that word?
Ayurveda. Ayur.
Practitioner. Ayurveda.
Yes.
Okay. And
That's very cool.
Ashok's work is shaped by his own journey through success, setbacks, and rebuilding. His deeper exploration of identity, human behavior, and purposeful living forms the foundation of everything he shares, helping people reconnect with themselves and create meaningful change from within. Today, we're exploring what truly shapes our identity, the stories that we believe, the unconscious patterns that pulls us away from ourselves, and the moments of failure that can become powerful invitations for transformation. Through real life stories from Ashok's own journey of success, setbacks, and rebuilding, we will be exploring what it means to stop abandoning yourself and discuss ways to reclaim who you truly are. Welcome, Ashok, to the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, doing wonderful. Uh, like it's a pleasure to connect with you and that opportunity to being in this group, in this space to share the message and yeah, connecting with you and your energy is so powerful and beautiful. I known you for a while and yeah, all the beautiful work you are doing. It
Thank
inspires
you.
all of us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. So, for our first time listeners, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Guests have joined us from around the world, including Africa, Australia, Norway, Egypt, Spain, UK, and here in Hawaii, where I am. And Ashok and I, we were just talking about how different the weather is right now. We are in totally different climates. I went to go turn on a fan, and I was actually using a fan when he just went to go turn on a heater. So we just want to welcome you. And every conversation is guided by one powerful word, and that is aloha. For me, aloha is so much more than a greeting. It's a way of living. A, affirmations and actions, living intentionally while taking daily action towards your purpose. L, leadership and love, leading yourselves first so we can serve others well. O, overcoming obstacles, finding strength through life's greatest challenges. Health and healing, caring for our whole selves, mind, spirit, body, and relationships. And the last A in aloha is acute awareness, living with wisdom, gratitude, discernment, and faith. So, Ashok, you built your entire platform on movement around one powerful idea: reclaiming yourself. I love that word, reclaim. That carries so much. But before we go deeper, I want you to go back to the beginning. What moment in your own life made you realize that something had been taken or given away that you needed to get back?
Yeah, I just so such a wonderful time. Even when I recollect, it's kind of a very emotional space and very deep meaning in that transformation. So the space, I mean, that understanding, uh, it's that level of the awareness is the first thing which hits you. I was running a business in Darwin, which is north of Australia, and it was kind of quite a successful business of 15 years in making, and I was kind of at the top, like one of the biggest IT uh, firms in Northern Territory. We had access to red carpet events and social networks, and in there, what happened is that during the GFC time around that, my business collapsed. So I had created, being a migrant, being entrepreneur, I had created my identity based on my work, and my business was kind of my real baby. Even in spite I had two kids at that time. So I'm now when I look back, that's a fact there. And I was very emotionally connected, very, like, I used to work very long hours. And then once the business collapsed, because till then everything was next step, you graduate from one class to the next class, so that's under your belt, you don't miss that. But business going, uh, when the business collapsed, it, like, 15 years of my work is just poof, gone. So that was a big meaning. Like, I was just exploring what does that then come end up to my 15 years of hard work. So what was I building, or what was I doing? I felt like so empty. I didn't have even a identity. Like, I used to connect with me other people as I'm a business person, or this is my work and I'm the director there, or whatever, all that story. But now, who am I in the social space? Who am I in the business space? Who am I to myself? So there was that big question, was a very powerful, painful question for me at that time. We just left a big void, and I was not ready to do this walk, like do next business or find a job. I said, no, this is so much important question which I have to find an answer for. And that, I think, would be my turning point in my life, which has helped me explore so much more further. Till then, also to give you a background, my understanding of human was like so simple. I used to think humans are so much simpler, because, like, I used to be in IT background, and if you ask somebody a coffee, then they'll say yes or no. So that's it of how humans are. Now when I think about it, it feels like yeah,
Yeah.
used to laugh.
I think it happens with a lot of people, especially spending so much time, right? So much time in it that it becomes, you can't help but have it become part of your identity, you know? And so I understand what you're saying about like that just made you feel like that's who you are, you know? And yes, we have our children and everything, we love them and everything, but it does come, work and everything does come, so it weighs heavy, especially
Mm.
because your income supports them, so it really does weigh heavy, right? So the one thing that ties all of my guests together, like I said, is that aloha framework. And so the way that I structure the podcast, it is through that aloha. And affirmations and actions. What affirmation or truth do you hold on to on days when the old stories try to creep back in, when the fear of the doubt tries to reclaim ground?
Yeah, that's very beautiful question. For me, why I felt like in that moment of loss and deep pain within myself, I still believed what nature does is, from my childhood, I used to be very good listener. Like, I used to observe nature. So I used to see, I don't see any, everybody, humans are rushing and doing this and that, but birds go in the morning, fly, they always come filled, and you don't see any bird feeling like drowsy or falling off the sky. So it just feels like the nature is already taking care of that without a big plan. They don't have a big savings or asset, or like a grain, like a big amount of a grain somewhere. They just go every day, find a feed, and just come back. So I thought there is so much more deeper meaning in what's happening to me. So that was kind of the thing, which only real thing I could really hold on to, which we could call as the energy of God, or whatever in different spaces people would associate it with differently. That helped me to move one step at a time. Like whatever is that step, like just keep walking and just trust that every experience, every places this journey is taking you is for my well-being, for my good thing, my growth and my learning. So if that really is the driving factor for me and helps me stay strong and being able to come out of the challenge I had for myself.
That is so good. I love that you brought up nature. I was doing an interview with someone else. She's in Norway, and the Scandinavian way, in the Norwegian, they would hang hay. Like they would tie it up and make it all pretty, put a bow on it and everything, and they would hang the wheat, because there's still food on it, right? In the trees, because they look at nature so closely, and that's part of their lives. They share in that nature. And so I thought that was just so beautiful when she was telling me that they think about, like, even the birds, and having food for them over the winter. And she said even now it's summer, there's berries and everything, but people want to pick their berries, so they put a net over the berries, right? But as
Ah,
soon as they pick it all and they have their friends come and harvest whatever, they'll take the net off and they say now the birds can have it.
ah, ah,
Yeah, so it's so
yeah,
nice, right? When you can look at life like that, I think we can learn so much
yeah,
from just observing nature.
true. In yoga
So,
and yeah, in yoga and Ayurveda, in all those philosophies, it's a continuum, it's like a unity. So it's just
uh,
like one goes to another and different manifestation of the same thing. So that's what the core feeling and belief is, that it's kind of the system. Only now that we named it, it start to separate from each other. If there was no
mhm.
naming, it would all feel like a one whole thing.
Yeah, see, so that is so nice. I think that's just a beautiful way to live life. So, what does reclaiming yourself actually look like in practice, like day to day?
Yeah.
What actions does that require?
Yeah. So what through my walk? So I did this long walk during that to sort my head from Darwin to Canberra, which was about 4,000 kilometer. I was staying in the bush for 6 months, and
Hmm.
it was a big trouble. And really appreciate my wife to support me in that. Support reluctantly. She didn't have much options,
Yeah.
but yeah. So in that time, what I found that reclaiming us, the biggest thing is we have lost us in a lot of sense, because the education institution and parent and all that give us happiness or rewards, all that based on some criteria, just not for being ourselves. So there is some expectation, there's a social expectation, family expectation, um, neighborhood expectation. So all those expectation is what we start to live for. So in that process, we, like when we are child, we are happy, we smile and all that, but as we progress, then there are expression we try to push back, we don't want to express it. And then as we get older, our narrative change, our vocabulary changes. And then say if you're finding yourself tired, you'll say, no, no, I'm working very hard, that's the thing. And the whole reframing starts. And the society being like that, it just feels very natural. That is how you are meant to live. If you are a executive, you are meant to be very full on and exhausted, and that's how the life is meant to be, kind of in a
Yeah.
long. I might be taking a long shot, but overall a lot of people have. So the reclaimed self is to help people to sit with that. It's only in that space time of like space or meditation, or like somebody interrogating you, somebody trying to help you to like find that where you have been missing. Because while we are looking for happiness outside, the happiness 100% comes from within. So a true, if at a Buddha's wisdom, you should be sitting under a tree and feel 100% happy. You don't need to have anything more. Like you have the food and the basic necessity of survival, then everything is generated within you. So why do we spend so much time hunting and finding? And so the reclaim self help you me uh, through my, I have created 6 pillars for that deeper journey. But for more for myself is to see how the other person can embrace themselves, because that authenticity, that sense of connection with themselves is what ultimately is the most beautiful rewarding thing, to even to enjoy the nature and the beauty of this planet we are in. That if you are not in that authentic connected space, you won't be able to enjoy the senses, everything. You are either living in the past or the future. That it makes it so much more harder to be in this space of beauty and love and like everything around us, which is all lot of positive things are happening around us, we generally tend to miss.
Yeah. I love that because, like you said, if you're not in that space and you're looking at the past or the future, you can't enjoy it. I just was traveling. I just came back literally last night. I was traveling Paris, London, all over the place. And if you think about it, if I was not in that moment,
Mm.
I would miss so much, right? I would miss
Yes.
so much. I was in London, and my trip was almost over, and I could have been in that bumming out spot where I'm like, oh no, my trip is almost done. I gotta go back to work,
Yeah,
and it
some
was
people.
just like maybe 2 days before coming home. And so, yeah, that's the tail end of a 3 week vacation. But I woke up and it was early, and I looked outside and there was foxes. I've never
Mhm.
seen foxes, right? I actually had to look up what there were because I didn't know what it was. It was
Ah,
down on, like, because we were up on top of like down into the yard area, and I saw these two animals, and I thought they were cats at first, and I was like, no, they're way too big for cats, but
ah,
they didn't look much like dogs.
dogs.
Like, I'm like, this is, but yeah, to be in that moment and enjoy that. And I was like, that is so amazing that God can bless you that way and be like, wake up early, look outside, you're in a new place, and then see something that I've never saw in my life. When I looked
Mm.
it up, they were called red foxes.
Ah, 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 ah.
Yeah. And normally they're nocturnal. They're more in the evening or early morning, so hardly anyone gets to see them.
Ah.
But I
Really?
did. So yes, like you said, it's beautiful to be in the moment.
Yeah,
That's where that reclaiming yourself really does come to pass. That is like that is the true place where you want to be. So
yeah,
good. I
and
love that.
it's true, Michelle, and I really love how much you guys travel, and that's really stay connected and having a right balance, life balance, and that's really beautiful. And not many people were able to explore that. And as you said, the surprises. Actually, every moment there are surprises. If we expand that same thing, that we can only take 5 to 7 chunk of information, while there's almost like say they say thousands of information every second coming to our body, but we are not aware of our body, we are not aware of the nature, we are not aware of like every subtle things is still so much surprises when we sit on it. Why did that person say that? Why did that person be able to think like that? Or why did this like the tree, we have a small tree every morning, I didn't see there was, it looks like a lot of birds coming into that tree and flying away, but it was like their meeting point, they had a conference, and then they
Uh-huh.
all decide to fly together from that tree. It was such a big
Wow.
incident. And for me, it, if I just ordinary look at it, it would be some crows making noise or some birds making noise. So that would be a ordinary interpretation, but there's so much happening. And when they know that they are ready to fly together, is everybody start to sing in the same tone, so they know they are in rhythm. So that's all happening in so subtly, so many things around us. We don't notice until we can slow down and really see. And nature, I mean, it's all magic happening all around us. And yeah, we miss most of it.
Yes. And one thing that I caught right when you said it is that you notice that their tones, they come into that same note, that same, and so they're like all in sync before they fly away.
Yeah.
And who would notice that if you're not paying attention, right? So you
Hmm.
have to be able to slow down, you have to be able to pay attention. People would just be hearing noise
Yeah.
and not the differences, right? So you could hear that subtle difference in their song, that you were able to be like, hey, I know when they're gonna be taking off soon.
Yeah. True.
So
Yeah.
good. That is so absolutely magical. So
Yeah.
the L in Aloha is leadership and love. Leadership through a reclaim self lens. What does that look like? Can you lead others like well before you fully reclaimed yourself, or does that have to come with work first?
Yeah. So you don't have to reclaim yourself first, but it is important to stay authentic. That's the understanding I have gained through the years, is that it's people understand that we are all humans and we have our own limitations and barriers and baggages. So it's okay for other person to see that you are that, like as us seeing, looking up to our parents or somebody in your organization, we understand. But if that person is staying from the authenticity and that groundedness, it's all fine for us, because that's how human is. There's no perfect tree, there's no perfect human, and everything has its own positive. And anything positive is also bringing in the negative. Say if a tree is big, it would be more um, risk towards wind. There's no way it can be big and also not be like a activated by wind. Or so there is that one thing growing or becoming big is also challenging other space. So the in the leadership space, it's the authenticity what people are missing these days, which we can in that reclaiming journey, also staying authentic, that this is what my limitations are, these are my growth stretches, and these are the areas I would like to develop, and these are the things I need your help from. All these are authentic talks, which just helps to even make the team even more stronger in that becomes the glue of saying, okay, this is who I am, and they know this is the person I can trust on these specific areas. Or and then everybody as a team works so much more powerfully.
That is absolutely true. I've seen it in places where I was the leader, where I was actually the lead teacher in a classroom, where I had staff under me. And then I see it now where I chose not to take any type of leadership role at work, because I felt like, no, I just want to go to work. I want to come home
Yeah,
and I want to do my thing, because like I write now, and I'm doing speaking and traveling, and so I didn't want to take any leadership role at my paid job.
yeah,
But in that, to be able to say, I need your help with this, or like if if you're the leader and you're looking at your staff, and if they're not sharing that they're having a hard time, then you, as the leader, open that door and be like, you know, not reprimanding or nothing like that, but understanding that everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone has to learn from some point, right?
So true.
And
Yeah.
help them up. That's the best way to be a leader. And so, yeah, I like that you said that, you know.
Yeah, when we are authentic, other people are also start to become more
Mhm.
genuine and be able to. It might look like a more, from outside perspective, it might look like a more rougher group, but that's how it's not a garden. It's actually meant to be nature, which really flourishes for so much more longer. The
Yeah.
garden requires a constant maintenance, and it's
I-
exhausting if the gardener
Yeah.
is not there.
I love that. I love that. That is so good. And I think that's something that people lack, is that authenticity. Because sometimes they're like, I don't want to say because I don't want to sound stupid,
Mm.
right? I
Mm,
don't want to
so
be
true.
judged, so I don't want to have to say anything like that. But then yet they struggle. And
Mm,
it's like, if you're just authentic, if you're just real, then so be it, because that's how we all need to learn. And I think more leaders, more people in that more authoritative positions, they need to be understanding. Because I think, and I've seen it before, like I said, where you see someone get an advance in their role and they change.
mm,
And you're
yeah,
like, what happened to you? You were so much
yeah,
better when you were not in this lead position.
yeah.
And it's like they get stressed out, they start acting differently, they need to pretend to be someone else, right?
True.
Because they
Yeah.
got the title, and you're like, that's so not you, you
Uh,
know?
Very true. These are we call as the parts within us. So we have been hiding some of us in that places where this is the expression, or when like how we manage chaos, how we manage stress, how we manage somebody belittling us, how we manage some sad moment. We have certain programs. So because in most of the time we want to play safe, we haven't explored and worked on those aspects. Had we been more authentic, it might look rough in the start, but we like how we are improving our speaking or anything, it would eventually come to that maturity, so that the person would not look like very rough. And people think when we say authentic, that means like come anger and all that. It's just because you haven't worked for so long. Had we had time to experience those authenticity from the childhood, we had enough time. And if the society would have accepted that authenticity, that child would have definitely grown up to be a so much more complete human, to be able to express handle different challenges, and be on like keeping the boundary and asking, I'm really tired and that's more, I can't handle anymore, or asking help, or whatever is that in that space required, without having to bust out and holding it for so long and then blaming the other person. And yeah, what
Yeah.
you're bringing is so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we've been gone. My husband and I both work for Homeland Security. We both work at the airport. And right before we left, there was a brand new training. And then we were gone. So my my husband said, "Oh my goodness, I don't even know how to do it anymore," because we never really had a chance to actually
Practice.
work it, right? Because we just got trained and then we were gone. And I said, "So what?" I said, "Just be honest and be
Yeah.
truthful and say, I just got back from 3 weeks. I'm going to need a little bit of a reminder of how this went, because we never
Yeah.
really had the chance to use it, right?" So
Yeah.
that's why it's so good.
True. Very true. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that all requires inner courage, inner work, and that trust, which many of the leaders today miss, and
Mhm.
they hurt themselves, and they hurt other people in that, yeah, in their roles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, how do you love yourself through the process of unlearning? Because I know that unlearning is quite a challenge to a lot of
True,
people.
very
But when you're in that messy middle of who you were and who you are becoming, how do you love yourself through that?
That's really hard challenge, Michelle. I know anybody who have done their own work would understand that, because it's like dismantling your own identity. It's like all
Mhm.
that you stood for, all you built up of your identity for so many years, and it's just like questioning. Say, for example, I come from an Indian background where the man is meant to be the head of the family, and it's very hard for me to be really like women to be asking question and taking that firm. But my wife had been she had been in the what you call the associations and in the student movements. She's a very brilliant lady, but for me it felt like a threat at that time. But now that I work myself, I had to soften my identity, which was a fake identity, because only thing I couldn't debate with her, so only time I could use is just to be more vocal or something, or just move away from the room or something, without getting into that discussion, which was so important for me to grow to, that I could have a proper discussion on any subject, whether it's kids or family, finance, and it has made our life so much healthy. But at that time, it looks very scary. It looks like going into a deep hole. But if we have the courage to sit through it, beautiful things come out, because you are not now. I used to think if I just let everything go, then nobody would love me. But it's come the other way, because now that I'm more authentic, and this is I am, whether it's the kids or the family, wife, everybody, we are more connected, and we find so much more resourceful within the group itself. Like my wife can drive and do so many things, and I can do so many things. So I say in the relationship of the three level: dependent, independent, and interdependent. So dependent is one plus one is one. Independent is one plus one is two, which most of the Western society is at. And the third level is one plus one becomes 11, interdependent.
Yeah.
So we have a choice to live our life in different spaces, and yeah, the deep work and love for ourselves helps us to grow into those larger, so much more powerful spaces for ourselves and others.
Yeah, that is so good because, to respect where the other person is. Yeah. And then to let them know, like, this works, like you said, together if you're authentic
Mm.
enough. But how many relationships they have a hard time because they can't be in that space. They can't be authentic and true. You know, I my husband now, I was going through like a horrible domestic violence, and that's my book. I wrote that. And then thank God I'm not with him anymore and all this stuff, and life changed. And now I'm with my husband, and to think that someone who came from domestic violence is with someone who is a ex champion boxer, right?
Wow.
Everyone was like, that's just such an odd choice of person you're going to be with. And it's
Uh,
like, the thing is that when you are in that space, when you are a fighter or a martial artist, you learn that is control, and you can actually control yourself, and it's meant for the matches, it's meant for the ring, it's not meant to be used on someone else, right?
uh,
Especially the person that you're with. And so much better to have someone that understands that you carry power. Every person, each person carries their own type of power, but to learn to control it and to be able to use it in that best way, right? Where it's appropriate, not how that was in my book. And the guy that I was with then, he used it in such a wrong way.
mm,
So yeah, I love that
no,
when
powerful reminder. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
because it's coming from, because from the childhood, and also, with all honesty, we shouldn't undermine anybody. It's because it's not just them to be blamed, it's the system, the society, the parent, the lifestyle, the choices, and somewhere they have lost the courage to be them,
Hmm.
in hunting for something or trying to find something outside. It just like a just makes those things come. So it's like a, they say the child has to be, is a responsibility of the society. So we are all kind of partially connected in that same mess in what we are in today. But it's a beautiful reminder if that the boxer doesn't have to be any more aggressive, because if that person has done their own work, it just feels like that trust and confidence and self-esteem all comes back so much more deeper.
Hmm.
You don't need to
Yes.
uh, impress, prove, uh, put effort, and yeah, like a lot of that start to become more
Yeah.
natural and authentic.
Yeah, that is so true. We all have to do our own work, right? If
Yeah.
you're not well on your in yourself for yourself, then how are you supposed to be well for anyone else? So
Hmm.
that is so good. The O in Aloha is overcoming obstacles. What's the biggest obstacle you see people hit when they begin that reclaiming process? The thing
True.
that stops most people before they even get started.
Yeah, so the biggest problem I'll share with a story. During my business was like trying to go like going down. So I had staffs telling us to downsize, and there were so many ways I could have done that. It's such a big business. I could have got some consultant in, restructure my business to be more effective, efficient, cut down the areas which was not making enough profit. But I was branching out into trying a lot more new things. I was burning cash more faster because I didn't want to play small or like look small. Rather, so what happened in the space? There was a, I had once a meeting in one networking event, a coach, and that person said, he was just chatting, and I was telling my, he said, what's the challenges you're facing? And I said, my staff doesn't stay long, and the market is changing so quickly. All that was the problem. And then he said, I said, what's your thought on that? Then he said, oh, I can't give you any solution straight away. I have to understand and sit more with you to understand you. And for me, it was like, why would he need to understand me? I'm not the problem here. The problem is out there. So it's very hard. That acceptance is the biggest hurdle for anybody to feel that there is even a chance of, uh, because it feels like you, because that's the place which hurts most. That somebody blaming you that you are not good enough is the space they really don't want to go into. And for them to be touching that space which is painful, which is hurting, which has never been appreciated and cared for, is the biggest. I say, if they can stay there and trust that space and come to terms with that, the rest of the journey becomes so much more easier. That really requires a lot of courage, and especially there are two types of relationship. One person is trying to be avoidant and anxious. The avoidant people, especially the males, are most who don't want to accept the problem. It looks like the other person has to sort it. Is if that person can just sit with that feeling and what's coming up and be able to talk to somebody who is able to listen to that, and without trusting that that person would help them take through the journey. Because unless you get into the space of that pain and the heart and all that, you would never be able to move on.
Yeah, so good. That is so good. So you walked your own road of reclaiming. What was the hardest story that you had to let go about yourself?
Yeah, the biggest for me was failure. So it looks very strange. When from my childhood, I used to think like life is two sides of the coins. Either you be successful or you are a failure. So the failure is what the society keeps removing from the system, like the garbage and waste and failures, and the success people are what people are rejoicing for. So it was a very black and white thinking, I would say, in that time. And I thought I was very good student. I used to all work hard all my life, engineering and my master's degree and starting a business and growing it. This I thought I left failure so far away. And when this business collapsed, the failure came right at my face. It just felt it's not possible. I'm dreaming. Or I'm doing. I didn't understand it, but then now I understand. It's the like in my through my walk, and is that it's part of the same thing. Unless you the number of successes you want, the number of failures has to align if it has to be sustainable and if you have to be naturally growing into that. So to me, to accept failure was the biggest hurdle. Every other hurdle, including my walk of 4,000 kilometers and sleeping in rough times, seems so much more easier.
It seems more easy.
Yeah. So
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. I love the story of your walk. Can you share that part again with us? Because I know
Yeah.
that maybe people never heard about it.
Yeah. So it was at that time when I was feeling very deeply dissatisfied, troubled, pain, that came across a book about somebody in 1982 who walked across Australia, like from south to north of Australia. Australia is a big island, as you know, and like huge. So I decided I love nature. I like my walk, so this is something it's possible. Then I thought, oh, but I really hardly walk about 30 minutes. For me to build up my endurance and to have a purpose, and that's where my sixth pillar came about the meaning, tribe, abundance, and to find out about the vitality and the routine in life. There are six key pillars I feel like was the reason where I was feeling so much more joy in my walk. It was I had to plan for a while. I had to build my stamina, but I thought the walk was a very grueling experience, is what I was thinking for the last 6 months. But about 1 month in, it was the most blissful experience. And towards the end, I really felt like, oh, am I going to finish this? Because it was so much more than the business I created and everything around me, my education. I'm learning so much more, I'm growing so much more, I'm experiencing life so much more. And in nature, every minute, every second is changing. A leaf is falling, a cloud is moving, a bird is coming. So you cannot have anxiousness or depression. You have to be aware of this life. The sun is coming down at specific time. There's no exception. You don't have a choice. You let go. All the things what is taught in the like morality book is all explained in nature by itself. You have to follow. Like somebody gave me three forks of plastic forks. I said I just need one, because why would I carry three and puncture my bag when I really need one and I can just clean it, and one plastic fork was enough. So all that is of importance, and somebody giving you water or fruit feels so much like precious than if somebody gives you a gold nugget or anything else. So 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 things start to fall in perspective. So this walk, which was 6 months, put a lot of things for me in perspective, and to really value myself, the blessings I have. um, like from the sunrise, like sometime it's so cold, like minus degree, and you just want that the first set of heat is so blessing that you just want to, like, you sit there and cry, because imagine if the sun doesn't come out, what would you do? And like the birds cheering and the all the plants opening up, as it's like a celebration in nature. It's abundance, and it's so much of joy. And yeah, the nature had to give us so much, but we end up boxing ourselves into some places, and yeah, not connect with that energy. So that was a growth, and like connect with my own love and uh, connection with the everything. It was the beautiful experience I had. There's so much stories to share, but I think, yeah, that it will be
Yeah.
further.
That is so true. beautiful. That is so beautiful. I just love that, the reconnection that you get, and how you got that through this walk that you did, because I think people need to do something like that, where they
Mm.
gotta, like, get get back and connect to nature again. Like you said, you have no choice whether the sun rises, when it
Yeah,
goes down, night is going to come whether you like it or not, you
yeah,
know. And I live here in Hawaii. Our time doesn't change and anything like that. But when I used to live in Washington State, I thought it was the funniest thing. But the sunbeam that came into the house, because we had a room that was just all full of windows, and when the sun would come in, it would leave that nice patch of sunlight on the carpet, and I would curl up in the sun patch on a winter's day because it is so cold. And I didn't realize, like, oh my gosh, you can feel the cold, the chill down to your bones kind of feeling.
yeah.
But to just be in that patch of sunlight and just be like, oh my gosh, this is so nice right now.
True.
So I totally understand. That is so good. Thank you for sharing that. So the H in um, Aloha, that is health and healing. And I think a lot of people forget about that part of themselves when they get so busy and all of that. But like you said, even in nature, there's healing in that. And there's a lot of emotional and spiritual weight that gets released when someone starts doing that kind of inner work. That is so beautiful. But how do you support people through that? And how do you take care of your own health and energy in the process? I know, because
Yeah.
helping people can be hard.
Yeah, Michelle. So I have learned this five elements from the Ayurveda, and it's in the Indian wellness books, which would be very helpful to people. I'm definitely sure to the audience here. So I'd like to share that with you. So the five elements, all thing in nature, because like while the modern science is going from like bottom up into getting the bigger picture, but the Eastern understanding is from, or the older things like the indigenous culture used to be from top down, from the universe down into the more subtlety. So more deeper. So whichever way you can say deeper, but say okay. So the idea is that everything in the universe is made of five elements. The elements, first one is the earth. So the first earth element is the things like food, what nourishes you. It has the ability to construct things, so build things. So that element has to be taken care. So have organic food, healthy food, eat in time, eat enough, eat only what's required, put attention while you're eating. All that comes in the earth element. So I'm just connecting with humans. For everything around us, it's all mixed of all these five elements. But for us, how it affects us is, this is how it works. The second thing is the water. It doesn't have to be in that sequence, but water, make sure you're hydrated. The water has a cohesion property, so connecting, bonding. So it makes you like you can, if somebody is feeling very stressed, exhausted, so if you give them water, they feel like pacified. So the water has that property, which hydration, and you have to make sure you are well hydrated during the day. Intake and excrete. And the third element is that of the fire. Fire is your digestive capacity, taking enough sunlight. All that is the fire is the transformational power, which changes from one to other. Even the intellectual is a fire. So your intellect is converting a thought into different. So in Ayurveda and all, there's no difference. It's just like a beautiful flow. Everything is, nature is so connected and flowing. There's no, like how we eat food, the similarly we have to eat. We are eating our thought, it's getting processed, and how it's assimilating into our body is what we have to take care. So in the digestion, there's biggest one is the gut health. but also cellular health and all that is there fire. So make sure enough exercise so that you're so eat reduce in snacking, having warm water regularly, all that is helping in fire. The next step is the air element is the one where you can see like the breathing. So take more deep diaphragmatic breath, and the air, the breath is the control to your mind. So you can, if you want to relax your mind, you want to agitate your mind, everything you can control by the breath. So having enough exercise, having going in the nature, all that is part of that. And then the last is the space, which is the time to the air element gives motion, movement from one to takes things from one place to another. And the final is the space is the where it is about healing or of stabilizing of like homeostasis, where this brings everything back to its normalcy. So if you feel agitated, you just sit alone. Meditation is very good, sleep is very good, going out, me time is very good. All that is the space element. So if you can take care of these five elements of you, will take care of your health in good sense. And if all these five are there, healing is natural because it's building, it's transforming, it's create like whatever is wasted getting exhaust removed. And there is time to heal as well, like fixing things while if there is any imbalances. So that's a beautiful five element way of looking at your health and healing.
Wow, that is so good. I love that. So that's earth, water. Did I
Fire,
get that right? Fire, air, and space.
yes, that's it.
Wow, that
So
is
our
so
body
good.
consists of all these five elements first. If one of the element
Nice.
is gone, like if the fire is gone, we are dead. If there's no earth, we are dead. If there's no air, water,
Right, right. So they all work together.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is so good. So, what does what does healing mean to you? Not as a finish line, but as a way of moving through life. What does healing mean to you?
Healing is a place where, for me, in that greater understanding is where you don't have to involve, like where it is like in a homeostasis, it's in a balance. Say for example, if water is under a fire and it's boiling, it's it is in his healed state, it is in his natural, like you don't have to make everything has to be status quo, that everybody has to be like this. If somebody is experiencing anger and that anger is coming out and he's explaining is that's the his nature natural state, because there's so much negativity going on. So we, the focus shouldn't be that person is a problem, the focus is we call as nidana, like whatever is the causation of that, we have to remove the heat, the this person will cool down, not try to make that person to not come anger, but to,
Right.
so the healing, the expression, the natural expression of the person in its authenticity is the real healed person. So in that extreme sense, but while we don't want that fire to keep burning, and because that person will be exhausted very soon, so we have to make sure whatever is to regulate it and whatever the state it can be at best is optimum. So we, whatever is that optimum criteria, if it is a long life, it is a happy life, it is whatever, then we can create surrounding environment to make sure that person experiences that life in that optimity. So it's a very weird and
Yeah.
very wide definition, but I
That
hope
is so good though. And I love the way that you said, like boiling water, the heat is under that water. So to cool that down, you just remove the heat.
yes,
I
yeah,
mean,
I
it
don't
just sounds
think.
so much simpler than trying to get the water to stop boiling.
Yeah, and we all waste so much effort in trying to water not to boil or somebody not to get sick. You don't want to remove the sugar or other problems, but rather focus on the person to try to wash your hand. Like this was very strange for me during COVID when we just had to wash our hands, doesn't have to worry about what we eat or.
Yeah.
In Australia, at least, yeah, we were having
So
that experience.
good. That is just so good. All right. So acute awareness. The last A in Aloha. You can also create music as part of your work. And I love that you created the Suno. I was actually just listening to it before getting on with you. Oh, wait, let me open my phone because I just love that song that you did. And Suno is, people use tools, using Suno and other tools to bring your message to life in a different way. So, what does music give you that words alone can't? Because I can just play like a, just felt there's a knock I
Yeah,
keep ignoring from a place I used to know. This is so beautiful. Is calling me,
yeah, I
saying,
really,
come
it was very
on,
touching.
it's time to go. One eye step, then another one, two,
So
into
we carry so many
the
things we really
unknown. It's
don't need in our life.
time. Yeah, that is
So I
so
just
beautiful.
kept my words. Yeah, I was just refining. So the program made the whole music, but it was just so like very inspiring for me to bring out that words to which touches the. So for me, anything in our life, the frontal brain should only be used 20% of time. We have to have 80% of our life going in a routine, in a flow, in a music, in a harmony. That's how the life should be. But unfortunately, we have been so taking on so much things. It just overactivates our frontal lobe with this way, that way, this way. So it's
Mhm.
a constant exhaustion. So our energy is shrunk so much because that takes a lot of power. So whether it's a Japanese life, like a very healthy life, or in Greece or anywhere where even in Hawaii, I really think that you guys have a lot more of that stability of life, of enjoying life, of companionship. In indigenous, very surprisingly, aboriginal, they didn't have indigenous people who were working only 2 hours a day. So it felt like they didn't have much resources, and they, so that was enough for them to survive. They used to spend a lot of time socializing, connecting with people, and just, so that's the healing space. So what I feel that those you need to have in your life, things which brings back the rhythm, brings back uh, the quietness and the gentleness, the flow in your life, because that's where the beauty lies, that's where the harmony and the joy and the kind of a natural meditation stays. So if it's always have to be deciding and like a traffic, busy traffic, you will be so much more exhausted. You haven't seen the life any, because that those times you have a specific objective, your whole attention is focused onto that. It's like running a race. So you can use it for certain times of your life, like 20% in specifically, like around the most of the life should be built around something such more valuable than, yeah. So that is the resourcefulness we should find in ourselves too, which then, like the faith, the gratitude, it's all so evident. It has to
Mhm.
happen, because
Yeah,
even just the food we get, a meal we get, it's about 500 people's effort. So we have to, how many people we have to be thankful for our own existence. It's only when
yeah,
we slow down and we see
so
all that.
good. I love that. You know, people forget the harmony and the things that we should be looking at. And if we if we just slow down a bit in our lives, if we just start paying attention more and doing those things, then yeah, those things will come back. Because like we were talking earlier, and how I heard you say that the birds have the tone, their notes, they would be in sync before they flew off together. Not a lot of people will recognize that. Not a lot
Mm.
of people will have enough space and time or even have the mindset to be like, hey, that sounds a little different, you know? And
Mm.
so when after I saw the foxes, there was this big park. It's called the Scion Park, and I thought, if there's foxes, there has to be other things out there. And so I didn't go back to bed. I got dressed, I put my shoes on, and I went for a little walk. And my husband was still asleep, and the sun was just coming up, but the birds were singing so like beautifully. I was like,
Uh,
this is amazing. And so I stopped under a tree and I looked up and I could hear so many birds, but I couldn't see them. And I'm like, all right, where are you
yeah,
guys?
yeah.
And they were so little. The reason why I couldn't see them was because they were so little. But when I did see it, it reminded me of those Christmas cards, the little fat belly birds that you see on Christmas cards. And
Ah,
so yeah, and so I actually had to look it up because I didn't know what kind of birds they were. And so they were
uh,
like um wren or something, and I was like, too cute, And it was such a nice thing, and I started walking, and now I could tell the way the birds were in the trees because it's lighter, but then there was like a kind of like a scattering sound and in
ah,
another tree, and I'm like, now that is not a bird. And I thought, there's something bigger in this tree. And so I stopped and I started watching the trees, and there was this little squirrel, and it was like sitting there and it was staring at me like, what are you looking for? I'm right here. It was the funniest thing because
uh,
it just looked down at me like, I'm right here. What are you looking for? Because I couldn't
yeah.
tell where it was. And the reason why it was like so much noise was because it was eating these acorns and it would drop it. And so all these things were falling, right? And I'm like,
Uh,
that is so crazy. But that is
yeah,
so beautiful when you can have that time and that space and be in harmony with nature. it
yeah.
just it just does something to you. So I just love that you bring that up. If
True.
someone comes across reclaim self years from now, and they remember only one thing about what you built and why, what would you want that to be?
Yeah, it's a message being told by people who have explored themselves enough, because the biggest blessing you can have for yourself is a full grown flower, or whatever if you want to give to nature, if you want to give to your parents as a tribute, is that you yourself in that full blossom state is where you are cherishing this beautiful life in this planet. It shouldn't go wasted. So I feel like if I can bring that awareness and that reminder for people to just make sure that this life in this planet goes useful for yourself and for others, that would be the greatest gift you can give for yourself and this planet and for others as well.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that image, that full bloom, that full growth bloom that you can have. Because it's like I've been in that place where, with the domestic violence and everything like that, you feel like you're
Yeah,
suppressed
yeah,
now.
you have
Right?
to
You
play
have
for,
to
yeah,
you have to like keep yourself quiet, you have to keep everything in, and that's how you feel. You literally feel closed up.
yeah.
But as I was free from all of that, and when I talk about that freedom that you have, it's that opening, that full
Hmm.
bloom
And
freedom feeling, right? And you're like, I
it's
can.
still like it's still the same world, isn't it, Michelle? Like when you think about it, it's still you were still staying in the same world, but your
Yeah.
experience would have been so contrasting of what it's not nature's choice, it's our choice if we decide not to move or to stay or whatever it is that there is that element of freedom within us which we haven't explode, or we didn't do at that time. It looks challenging, it looks threatening, but the nature has given all these options for us to bloom, even in that tough situations. To
Yeah,
yeah, do you
that
agree?
is
Yeah.
so good. That is so beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much for this time that you shared with us. I just can't like express how good that is to have, especially from a man. Because a lot of women, we can talk and we can talk about flowers and we can talk about blooming, we can talk about those things, but it's harder to share that even with like my husband. I can talk about stuff and he'd be like, good. It's
Ah,
not like because he doesn't really understand that. No. And so I actually had to show him like the flowers outside. We have flowers right out here called Pua Kenny Kenny, and the smell of it is so beautiful. You can like walk by and smell it. And the thing is that it turns from a white to a yellow to this golden orange color as
wow.
it ages. But the thing is that the darker it is, the better it smells, even though that it's almost gonna die, right?
Ah,
And it's gonna be
ah,
falling off the tree soon. And I'm like, that is what life should be. That is
true,
absolutely how life should be. Like you can grow and you can change, and it's so just enjoy and live and appreciate every stage of it, right? Every
true.
stage of it. And it's sweeter.
No, so true. Yeah, we it has
So
its own beauty in all the states it's in, and it has its
yeah.
own purpose for every state it is in to contribute in different ways. So India has like different goddess, like Lakshmi for money and for knowledge, for wisdom, different goddess. So
Mhm.
life gives you different companions for different stages of your life to learn and grow, and yeah, and
Yeah. So good. So good.
beautiful.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your honesty, for your heart, and for what you brought to this conversation today. Your work is a reminder that none of us are stuck.
Uh,
The story isn't finished, and that what you were told, that's just not the final word on who you can become and you are becoming, because people change on a daily, right? So just continue to move into that and appreciate all of the stuff, even the ups and downs. And sometimes people only look for the highlight reels, like
mm,
on social media,
yeah,
only looking for the highlight reels. But there's times when even in those down parts, you can learn a lot. Like, through your walk, right? Even in the down parts, you can see and find something
rather,
to
we pick up a
appreciate.
lot of knowledge at that time. In when we are down, we have time, we have space, we have nobody to like pretend us to be in a certain way. So we are kind of ignored, and that's a beautiful space to be in. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
it's your beautiful reminder, Michelle. Like, accept everything wherever it is in our journey, that we accept it and embrace it. And that would, at that time, might look like odd, it might look like silly, it might look like foolish. But if we can embrace that, and when you come on the other side, it would look so much what was needed.
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned something too, like for me, if I didn't go through what I did, the contrast,
Ah,
right? Looking at the contrast. Sometimes when you're going through a hard time, when you come out of it, it's just so much more beautiful because you can see what you went through.
true.
So that is so good.
Yeah.
That
I had
is
a very blessed
so beautiful.
there's so many things, yeah, like blessed young age, and I took everything for granted, and it was just like as if I'm. It's all like what you call that entitlement mindset. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then now that when you know that when you I'm now rebuilding it all, every brick feels so much more of
Mhm.
value and heavy, of meaning.
So good. Yeah, like you said, that entitlement mindset, right? How we get there. Uh, Thank you so much. So, can you let us know, like, how would people find you, follow your work, or, like, connect with
Yeah.
Reclaim Self?
So yeah, reclaimself.com.au is my website. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a good. I'm based in Australia, but I discuss and talk with people around the world. The second option is also I have a portal which is about Ayurveda, which is very strong passion for me because not only it takes care of your health, Ayurveda is life science. So it's a so much more wisdom. You can start seeing life and health in a very different perspective. So that is AIAYS, Australian Institute of Ayurveda and Yogic Sciences .org. So that's the separate enterprise. So you can connect with me in these spaces and explore my work, and happy to be connected on LinkedIn. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah, that's great. Just message me that so that I can have it spelled out correctly when I do put it in the show notes so everyone can get it and make sure that they got the right um, connections for you, because I know that people should, like, learn more. And with your information, I know that it would be very helpful to a lot of people. So thank you again. Thank you again for coming on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. This has been so good. So to everyone listening today, maybe there's a part of yourself that's been letting someone else define, that you've been letting someone else define. Maybe you've been living a story that was written for you, but not by you. Let Ashok's story remind you that you have the right to reclaim every part of yourself, and it is never too late to begin. So keep walking in aloha. Keep keep walking in aloha. I can't say that enough. But until next time, thank you, Ashok, for being here. Thank you for sharing. I can't thank you enough. But
thank
until
you,
next
Michael.
time, everyone,
Yeah, one small step at a time. Thank
yes,
you.
one small step at a time. So until next time, everyone, thank you for joining us here on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. Until our next episode, ahui ho. Bye now.
Bye.